This video recaps the Stanley Cup Playoff games from April 29th, 2025. And while it's late, it's better late than never. Enjoy. The bell tolls for the first time as we have our first elimination at the playoffs in day 11. The other series that are going on also have their fair share of eye-popping moments. Heart attacks aplenty, teams exchanging blow for blow, multi-goal comebacks in the playoffs, and the ER room being filled up to account for hockey fans having heart attacks. Toronto? You do realize you have to eliminate Senators, right? I get this is a hated rival from your province. You still have to finish the job and close them out. Why is it all of a sudden that past demons are coming back to bite? That's now 13 losses in the Matthews, Marner, Nylander era in closeout games. This is their 14th such game. The first period was their strongest showing. That was it. They had a 12-4 shot advantage in that frame. Yet Linus Ullmark holds firm. And David Perron almost scored the first goal of the game. But his wrister far side hit both posts, and as it was slowly looking to go across the goal line, Morgan Riley just kept it out of his stick. While Giroux also gets denied on a wraparound attempt, but an errant pass resulted in a John Tavares breakaway. Ullmark said no. As usual, the Sens were forced to play a lot of defense in the first few minutes. They weren't really good at defending, but Ullmark kept them at bay, shutting down all 12 shots. Ottawa was getting much better chances than they did in the first 4 games, even if they didn't get the same volume of shots. Even better for them, Ullmark has seemingly found his game. Then here's Ridley Gregg, who throws a dirty hit on Matt Nyes and got a penalty for it, but during the Leafs power play, Nyes slashed Artem Zub and took a shot after the whistle, but only the first play was penalized. Overall, it's a tight and chippy first period, but everything that happened at the end of the period blew it all up. The scoring chances carried over to the second, and among the notable of them all, Ullmark shut down a 2-on-1 where Austin Matthews went for it. Then, after nearly 24 minutes of action, Thomas Chabot, after spending 8 years with the Senators organization, finally scores his first career playoff goal. Tim Stützle gets helped by Brady Tkachuk off the faceoff, and Chabot rips it from the point through a double screen between Matthews and Nyes. The bank is open. Defense was the key of the second period. That's where the Senators upped their defensive game. The closest the Leafs got was John Tavares getting denied off Ullmark's right skate on a power play. But it was clear that Ottawa wanted to spend the last 20 minutes playing defensive-minded hockey and center a 1-goal lead. Here and there were chances. One of Tkachuk's wraparound and Mitch Marner picking up a rebound for Toronto. But the common theme that Ottawa did was set under 1-goal lead and focus on defense. In fairness, that worked for them throughout the regular season. I still want to point out how snake-bit Fabian Zetterlund is. Anthony Stolarz was trying to make a desperation save. Zetterlund had him beat. Unfortunately, hits the side of the cage and remains 1-0 Ottawa heading into the third period. I don't want to imagine how much bad luck he's had. But the fact that the Sens were playing defensive-minded hockey to sit under a lead is not the most fun strategy. Well, he did get a shot earlier. Stützle was setting up Tkachuk for a one-timer, and Gregg taking another dumb penalty felt like the Leafs could use this as the turning point to tie the game up. But much like Game 4, the Sens dug in deep to scoop the puck and kept it out of their own net. And Adam Gaudette intercepted pass towards the point to set up a 2-on-1, and he and Dylan Cousins doubled down shorthanded to make it 2-0. It's a night of firsts because Cousins also scored his first career playoff goal, with this shorty after being held off the goal sheet in the first 4 games and held to just 1 assist. The closest that Toronto was to scoring in this game was Austin Matthews hitting the inside to left post, and it stayed out entirely. He had Ullmark beat. The Swede was trying to make a diving save from left to right to get that. And as Toronto pulled Stolarz to get the extra attacker, the Sens took care of business with empty netters from Stützle and Tkachuk to drag the Leafs back to Canada's capital. The game was a lot tighter than the final score suggests, but the Sens were able to wrap this up in regulation. This win for Ottawa would not have been made possible without Linus Ullmark. That's not to say that the rest of the Sens were bad, but this is what you need to see from a goaltender that needs to shed the choker label in the playoff. And he delivered with his first career playoff shutout, stopping all 29 Toronto shots. He was bound to steal a game, and he saved 2.38 goals above expected in all situations. Jake Sanderson was once again great for Ottawa, as he has been throughout this series. He didn't score a goal, but he didn't need to because he's been excellent on both ends of the ice. And how about role players stepping up when it matters? Tyler Kleven had another strong performance in the series again, and even though he's not known for points, he can bring the boom and defend. He's making his presence known on his own end of the ice. For all the talk about Zetterlund being snake-bit, Drake Batherson is arguably a snake-bit, if not worse, because he's missing wide open nets. Nick Jensen looked pretty rough, but he was decent enough to help the team win. Ridley Gregg needs to stay disciplined because some of the penalties he took were bad ones. But the PK did his job, and helped the Sens force Game 6. The Leafs, on the other hand, saw a nightmare game for their top line. Matthews and Marner especially. They committed a series of blunders that led to Ottawa forcing Game 6. Matthews accidentally screened Stolarz on Chabot's opening goal, then turned the puck over on their third power play to Gaudette. Not counting the empty netters, the top line was on the ice for every goal against, and considering opponent quality, along with the chances to eliminate the Sens at their home ice, this game was a definition of a nightmare. And this sadly overshadows how much of an impact Toronto's fourth line continues to make. Steven Lorentz, Scott Laughton, and Calle Jarnkrok have brought the energy and chance creation needed, and they outshot Ottawa 6-0 at 5-on-5. They were the ones who started the game, and they threw their bodies around. Jarnkrok continues to be active on every play, while Lorentz and Laughton have been excellent on the PK. They're essentially a second third line on the team. And just because Stolarz had another bad night, that doesn't mean the Leafs have to pivot to Joseph Woll. While Woll is a good option, Stolarz was not the reason that Toronto lost Game 5. There were times in which he was fighting for the puck, but he was largely composed, and neither goal he gave up was his fault. He still needs to be the starter, unless he has a sharp fall-off. That's how locked in he is right now. But if you're Toronto, perhaps you may be contemplating line changes. When Max Domi was moved to second line, that didn't make a lot of sense. He's better suited as a winger on the third line. Bobby McMann is struggling to find his footing, and the third line of him, Pontus Holmberg, and Max Pacioretty look mismatched. It's going to be curious which one of Pacioretty or Nick Robertson suits up in Game 6. It's going to be curious the action of Game 6 overall, if we're being honest, because things just got a little more interesting. Toronto needs to answer, but hey, Toronto. Earth to Toronto! The Hurricanes have pushed the Devils to the brink of elimination, headed home to Game 5 at Raleigh with a chance to put them away. Holy moly! What just happened here? The article Chekhov is in net for the first time as a starter, and that start was not as I expected. Sure, Kochetkov hasn't been a good playoff goalie, but oh my goodness. I guess the Devils didn't want their season to end at the hands of a team they haven't beaten in the playoffs in 24 years. They sped to him massively in the first 10 minutes, and it was driven by 3 former Hurricanes. Kochetkov turned away Dougie Hamilton's rebound chance after a mad scramble, but a minute later, there would be a similar looking sequence to that, where the puck came free after another mad scramble, and all the way back to the high slot for Brett Pesce on a failed clear, who fired a wrister that bounced off Dawson Mercer's hip. Less than 2 minutes later, Pesce gloves down Jacob Slavin's clearing attempt, beats across to Timo Meier, and blazes one past Kochetkov's glove, 2-0. The only good thing to happen in that first period for Carolina was the penalty kill. It remained perfect in the series, but rise the Devils' power play ended. Shimon Nemec fires a shot that bounced off Stefan Nason and in the net. It's a free goal first period, and everything is going right for the Devils. Everything is going disastrous for the Kings. Carolina was sleepy to start this game, and the Devils made them pay. But hockey is a game of twists and turns. Remember when the Kings led 4-0 and 5-2 against the Oilers in Game 1 of their series? It was gone by the third period. Yes, they won that game, but it shows that no lead is safe. You think the Devils are going to fall apart with Jacob Markstrom in net? You got to be cuckoo crazy. It's not like a team with high quality netminder is going to... Alright. If it could happen to Kemper's Kings, it could happen to anyone. The second period collapse from New Jersey actually began with 15 seconds to go in the first period. Cody Glass was called for a head-scratching interference penalty. While the Canes didn't score on the ensuing power play, just like the Devils, they got the goal right after it ended. Logan Stankoven gets a one-timer, and Markstrom got the initial save, but the rebound sat on the goal line, where Taylor Hall whacks it in to get one back for Carolina. That's the first of a two-parter rookies getting the job done for the Canes, as just over 2 minutes later, Mark Jankowski scoops up his own dump in at the near corner and flips it to Jackson Blake, turns around and fires in the bottom of the left circle, and it somehow goes past Markstrom off his blocker. The triple down 99 seconds later. Blake screens Markstrom, which sets up Andrei Svechnikov on a shot from beyond the dot to tie the game at 3. The free goals in 3:54 were the 4th fastest free goals in Hurricanes franchise history too. All the energy has been seized by the Canes. They're riding all the momentum, and they're feeding off the energy from the crowd in this tie game, and it's gone. Stefan Nason and Paul Cotter, off a long boards battle at the far corner, were able to pry the puck free, and Nico Hischier, coming off the bench to replace Cody Glass, snipes a shot past Kochetkov to regain the lead. But like the 3-0 lead, the Canes looked at it and said, "That's a nice lead you got there, Devils. It would be a shame if a bunch of jerks came back and tied the game." The power play's been red hot for the Canes to this series, and they get a 5-on-3 chance for an extended period of time. Immediately, They got to work when Sebastian Aho drew 2 tripping penalties. It was him who finished a one-timer set up by Seth Jarvis to even it up at 4. Excellent puck movement from the outside between these two and Shane Gostisbehere, and they got Markstrom to completely lose sight the puck on that quick pass. The game slowed down from there, but it was clear that the special teams were to Carolina's advantage. The PK stepped up twice to prevent the Devils from pulling ahead again, and they dictate the play for the final 20 minutes of regulation. Markstrom found his game again, with several stops on the rookies, Stankoven and Blake. The best one was Stankoven getting denied from in tight on a sharp angle backhand that had enough open space. Even Svechnikov and Jarvis were turned away, the latter twice. To show how much special teams were playing to the Canes' advantage, Jordan Martinook got a shorthanded breakaway that Markstrom turned away. Markstrom was the main reason this game reached overtime. The culprit of the Devils' second period collapsed. After that, he completely locked it down. Because in overtime, Carolina was the more aggressive team. They were playing like they wanted to end their 6-game losing streak in playoff overtime games, and eventually, like they want to end their 7-game losing streak in multi-overtime games. In total, Carolina fired 54 shots at Markstrom, but most of them were low-danger chances from distance. But they can mix in quality looks too. There was no save bigger than the one Markstrom made on Gostisbehere rebound on Blake's shot, and another rebound from Hall that was swept away by Cotter. And I said multi-overtime games because this game went to double overtime. Dawson Mercer quipped Jesperi Kotkaniemi with a stick, and it gave Kotkaniemi a black eye as a result. That gets Carolina on a 4-minute power play, and while the first half of the power play didn't have a lot of excitement, the top unit gets it done. Gostisbehere sets up Aho at the top of the right circle, and it's deja vu. 2 years ago, the Hurricanes eliminated the Devils in 5 games on a power play goal with a shot that was fired from the top of the right circle. Here, they eliminate the Devils in 5 games again on a power play goal with a shot fired from the top of the right circle. The difference is that 2 years ago, it was a wrister that was deflected. Here was a one-timer, and it was the exact same guy who set up the series-winning goal, Shane Gostisbehere. After a 1-year hiatus with the Canes, it's the exact same pattern on how this series went. Canes win the first 2, Devils win game 3, Canes win the last 2. Game over, series over, Canes advance. In hindsight, it's a shame that the series ended the way it did, because we may never know what would happen in the series if everyone on New Jersey was fully healthy. Well, 2 years ago, Carolina did beat New Jersey without Svechnikov, Teuvo Teravainen, and Max Pacioretty. So you can only go next man up until you run dry. The Devils' health put them in a pickle. All that boost was depleted in Game 1. Luke Hughes and Brendan Dillon were lost for the series after they were hurt in that game. Jonathan Kovacevic left Game 3 and was done for the series too. Jonas Siegenthaler, Dougie Hamilton, and Brett Pesce were all playing visibly injured, and a lot of ice time put a lot of stress on them. But both Pesce and Brian Dumoulin were excellent in the series as New Jersey shut down Perry. Special teams was very one-sided. Carolina's struggles on the power play are very well documented. They were near the bottom of the league during the regular season, but it came to life in this series. They scored 6 times on 90 attempts, and the man advantage scored in every game except Game 2. Twice they have scored twice, and both of them were in the games that went to double OT. On top of that, the penalty kill was perfect. They killed all 15 New Jersey power plays and scored the only shorthanded goal of this series in Game 2. Freddie Anderson didn't finish the series after he was run into by Timo Meier, who Anderson stopped multiple times, and it left how he could beat him. In the 4 games he played, he was spectacular. Not as busy as Markstrom, but it was as impactful. He allowed just 6 goals on 94 shots, winning 3 of 4, and a save percentage, .936, and GA 1.59, are best in the league among starters. Svechnikov finished with a series-leading 5 goals, and was the only Cane who came out firing out the gates, outshooting his teammates. He needed to find a score sheet, and he had 4 of his 5 goals in the final 2 games of the series. Finding ways to get on the score sheet will make life a lot easier. He was essentially a thorn on Markstrom's side. And lastly, forward depth came to life for Carolina. Yes, it was against a depleted defense, but the defensive depth of Carolina needed to show up. In total, the Canes dressed 13 forwards in the series, with Mark Jankowski replacing Jack Roslovic in Game 4. Matchup by matchup, everyone outplayed the Devils' stars. They held the Devils' 4th line without a point. Canes' 4th line was present. Jordan Stahl and William Carrier, although not on the score sheet, made their impact on other areas. There were concerns about what would happen after trading Marty Necas, but there wasn't any worries after the first round. Or you could say getting outscored at even strength 11-9, but outside of that, not a lot of worries. The test that they can carry it over to the second round. It's back to Vegas for a pivotal Game 5 and one that can swing the momentum to the team that's looking to take command of this series. And no better instance than the Wild's early power play in the first. After some good saves from Adin Hill, Kirill Kaprizov made an ill-advised pass to the slot that was easily read by Jack Eichel. And on the rush back, he finds William Karlsson open in front of the net for a tap-in shorty. Short-handed goals usually rattle power play's confidence, right? Well, not here. 13 seconds later, Kaprizov made up for a bad turnover by one tinier pass from Matt Zuccarello that went up from the state of Wisconsin to the state of Minnesota. It's tied up 1 apiece. Both teams couldn't get anything past either Hill or Philip Gustafsson as the goaltending took over from this point on. They were pretty much even in shots, but then something clicked. Eichel's centering option, Karlsson, was close off in the slot, so he holds onto the puck as he breaks free from Jonas Brodin. Mark Stone slaps over the point that blazed in off Karlsson's screen. Gustafsson never saw it. Knights retake the lead. Minnesota challenged for goaltender interference, but the play was ruled as incidental contact. Goal stands. And from there, the Knights took over in the shot board, finishing the period with a 16-9 shot advantage. Eichel and Karlsson had 2 more dangerous chances for Vegas, and the big reason why the Wild were still in this game was because of Gustafsson. Outside that, Eichel was finally shown up, an assist on both of the Knights' goals. Minnesota's power play was aggressive on one chance in the second period, but they were not able to solve Hill. Then the game slowed down, both goaltenders taking over. Pavel Dorofeyev came close to beating Gustafsson. Nope. But what about Vegas' power play? They scored twice in Game 4, were the best in all regular season. Well, never mind, Tomas Hertl got stopped. In fact, I'll play spoiler. The Knights' power play was bageled again in this game. 0 for 3. Frederick Gaudreau gets a rebound off Jake Middleton's point shot. Nothing. But by the third period, there is a development. Gustafsson is under the weather and is forced to exit the game. Entering the crease now is Marc-Andre Fleury. He is here for an NHL record 18th time, the final one of his storied career. He is in the playoffs. Taking over crease vacated by the ill Gustafsson, Fleury is in to take over the net at 40 years old, ready for any task that lies ahead. Minnesota enters the third with 39 seconds of carryover power play time. The penalty is killed, but you cannot underestimate flower power. It's galvanizing the Wild. Kaprizov finds Marcus Foligno. The first shot is stopped, the rebound. Oh, Marco Rossi couldn't handle the puck and he slips on a banana peel. Adin Hill was way off his crease too. Let's try this again. You cannot underestimate flower power. It's galvanizing the Wild. Matt Bodie takes a stretch pass with Jonas Brodin. Drives around Nick Hague. The initial shot is stopped, the rebound is swept wide. Or at least they get a third entry. Eichel's pass intercepted by Middleton. Joe Eriksson next slices a cross-ice pass to Bodie. Does the same move he did to Hague on Alex Pietrangelo. One-handed glide to the net. And this time, he roofs it. Tie game! You cannot underestimate flower power! It is galvanizing the Wild! His 5th goal of the series ties Game 5 at 2. And behold, the Flower is still going strong in his crease, turning away Nick Wall right at the goal mouth as Vegas was looking to take the lead again. Even with Vegas pushing, even with Minnesota going 12 minutes without a shot, the Wild persevered. They held strong. They held their fort at the fort. Ryan Hartman drives to the crease. No pushback from Pietrangelo. Roofs it. A Wild lead. Flower power, baby. Minnesota is coming home for 3-2 series lead.
Objection!
Why? Oh, you can't make this up. Imagine being a Minnesota Wild fan. Imagine being 75 seconds away from going up 3-2 in the series. Imagine feeling all the euphoria of a go-ahead goal from Hartman, will showcase himself as the gritty third liner that can chime in with goals offensively. And all that is taken away with the eagle eye of Vegas video coach Dave Rogowski. Gustav Nyquist's skates were slightly offside, challenge successful. The game goes back to 2-2. Adin Hill has made timely saves for the Golden Knights, including big ones in Game 4 to help them even the series up at 2 games apiece. And he backstopped them to a Stanley Cup 2 years ago. He made one more Matt Zuccarello off a face-off to force overtime. But what if I told you the biggest save of the series would come from Dave Rogowski, the Golden Knights video coach? Aside from that save, the successful challenge altered the course of the game to get momentum back to Vegas. They had 4 scoring chances before Tanner Pearson, who had less ice time than everyone else on the team, finishing the game with 7:48 of ice time, scooped up a loose puck along the embankment, and Brett Howden roofs it in tight. Game over. Howden becomes the first Golden Knight to have 2 overtime winners in the playoffs. The first Golden Knights team was comprised of cast-offs from other teams, while this year's Knights team has a mix of star talent, high-in-depth pieces, and cast-offs from other teams. Howden was one of the cast-offs that Vegas got at his development struggle with the Rangers, and now he's thriving on their bottom 9. This season was his first career double-digit goal season. Eichel and Mark Stone were very quiet to start the series. Now they're chiming in on the goals. They've combined for 3 points, and William Karlsson also lit the lamp. Bruce Cassidy put Karlsson with Eichel on the top line, and it paid off in dividends as they held the Wild's top line in check, and tonight showed the killer instinct that has been missing throughout this series. They were the hungrier and the better team in Game 5. They outplayed the Wild and won. They needed that. At various points, Karlsson and Eichel were teamed up with Stone, and Cassidy put the 4th line on the ice at various points, which was the right call. All the strings were put together. If this loss isn't the definition of pain for the Wild, I don't know what is. Even nearly full strength and with Kaprizov and Boldy destroying Warwick, the Wild were not as good as the Knights. And there's that growing sense of dread in the state of hockey. They're 0-5 in their last 5 elimination games, losing by a combined 20-8. If the missed opportunities result in another missed second round, this series should be treated as such. After 2 games, it seemed almost impossible that the Oilers could get back in this series. In fact, in the 2 games they beat the Kings at Rogers Place, the Kings were ahead in both games. The Oilers hung around to win both of them, but this series they head back to Los Angeles, where the Kings have dominated home ice all season long. Are you kidding me, Kings? You couldn't get anything by the Oilers? I'm not talking about one period in particular, I'm talking about the entire game. What do you mean you only got 22 shots on an older Oilers team compared to what they had last year? There's no such momentum in a series, I thought. Oh, there's a harsh lesson. It's hard to stop a train. If that train's the Oilers, that's not even a regular train. That's a Japanese bullet train. If you were to tell me that Darcy Kuemper would get a Vezina winning performance at his home ice and the Kings still lose, I wouldn't believe you. But whoop-de-doo, here we are. Season ice in a 60-minute game and both shots on goal and high danger chances against, with Kuemper being the only reason the Kings were even alive in this game to begin with. One of the best goaltending displays of this series was all for nothing. Imagine telling me that it would take 8:33 of ice time for the Kings to record their first shot on goal. Imagine telling me that they've had that amount of time elapse after allowing the first 12 shots on goal from the Oilers. Edmonton outshot the Kings 19-4 in the first period. 19-4! Sure, the Kings had the 7 takeaways through the game, but you don't win a lot of playoff games by committing 21 giveaways. They can have all the power play goals from Andrei Kuzmenko they want, because that tip-in from him on Anshe Kopitar's point shot was the only one they'd ever get by Calvin Pickard in the second period. Joe Edmondson was rightfully pissed off in his opening statement. Huge game for us, and we come out like that. Because it only got worse for the Kings after the first period. Kuemper and the Kuzmenko goal were the only shining lights. Nothing went right. For a team that's been good at home, it was very evident that the Oilers controlled the pace. Even on the final seconds of their power play, they fretted to find the back of the net. And while Kuemper kept it out of the goal, he was basically forced to do so. Evander Kane didn't even it up with the puck coming out to the left point with Drew Doughty coming out of the box. Don Klingberg beat out Doughty, and Kane beat Kuemper glove side to even the score. All this time, Kemper's being left out to dry, forcing a key save after key save, including a sharp angle shot from Kane after Zach Hyman shot it wide on a 3-on-2 by the end of the first. They've needed to up their forechecking intensity, and the only good advantages they had were faceoffs and hits. That was it. The Kings were outscoring the Oilers in the second period of the series, but the Oilers remembered they were tied for the third best second period goal differential in the league this season, at plus 26. They wasted no time and dominated every aspect of the game. They answered every lingering question about the Kings decisively. It wasn't even a contest. Corey Perry turned the clock back to his Anaheim years in this series, and he made a nice curl and drag. And that was on one of the odd man rushes the Oilers executed to perfection. Adrian Kempe had a partial break, but his rolling puck went between the 5-hole and missed the net entirely. That was one of the few high danger chances the Kings got. In fact, they got 3 in the entire game. The Oilers had 14 on the other end. Mid danger chances, 10-1 Oilers. The most action that Calvin Pickard got in the opening period was when he escaped to the bench and back during TV timeouts. For a team that's supposed to be old and slow, it didn't look that way. The Kings' biggest mistakes was that they were too top-heavy and arrogant. People talk about how top-heavy the Oilers are. That narrative has been dead for years. Even it appears they'll be headed back that direction with the impending cap held this summer. The Kings didn't have any sustained pressure or put the Oilers on their heels. Game 4 was one of the backs of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard. Game 5 was a complete team effort. Several times in that third period, the Oilers were knocking on the doorstep to get the go-ahead goal. The Kings could not get any momentum for the power play marker. Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins were all over Kemper in the third. And how many times do you see a 3-on-2 rush set up by a puck that bounced off an opposing player's back? Vasily Podkolzin picks it up and skates around Trevor Moore. Victor Arvidsson fires a snapshot. The rebound comes to Matthias Janmark. And on the Oilers' 38th shot, they lead. Even when the Kings have another power play, they could get nothing. No pressure. No threatening looks. No shots on dangerous areas. To add insult to injury, they gave up another 2-on-1 while on that power play. Where was the fight? Where was the desire to win? Where's the pushback? The only thing they did was turn Kemper into Henrik Lundqvist. Sisyphus pushing the boulder up a hill, only for it to roll all the way back down once it reached the top. Wash, rinse, and repeat. All game long, the Kings looked dead. And they were right for the taking. RNH seals the deal with the empty netter. Jack fell down and broke his crown. It's extremely rare to watch an NHL game and have one team control the pace from start to finish. It's even rarer in the playoffs. But that's what happened. In the last 5 periods, the Oilers have outshot the Kings 79-35 and outscored them 7-1. Jim Hiller had absolutely no answers for the Oilers and let the emotions get to him. And this is upsetting because this is supposed to be a different Kings team. Even in this series, there were a lot of storylines that have gone their way. They've won on special teams, on the power play. It wasn't close. By this point, they have one fewer power play goal against the Oilers in this series alone than the previous 3 series combined. They're getting big gains with their goaltending at last. The Oilers bested a 1-3-1 last year, and they now have an answer for the Kings' 1-2-2 neutral zone approach. They break through with no pressure, effortless zone entries. Their attacks are made quickly, and they're essentially hurrying the Kings up. They're not set, but the Kings get 0 passes because their forecheck was extremely passive. Worsening matters is that they're setting the same 9 forwards and same 4 defensemen for most of the last few games. They're exhausted! On average, the 4th line barely even had 5 minutes of ice time. Jordan Spence and Brant Clark have logged decent minutes, but yet this might not be enough. What's the point of dressing guys you don't trust enough to deliver in the playoffs? They had no answers for Chris Knobloch changing up the neutral zone structure of the Oilers. Every one of the Oilers' 4 lines remained disciplined. They constantly disrupted the Kings' momentum. The Kings could not get quality scoring chances. The Oilers eliminated any threat, but turned defensive intensity to explosive counterattacks. The second line of Kane, RNH, and Hyman was impressive. The strong play is creating matchup headaches, and it gives the Oilers more flexibility. They can deploy McDry together when necessary. Kane's a pleasant surprise, making a difference in the series. And John Klingberg has impressed. Despite being vulnerable to quick attacks off the rush, his sharp passing in the defensive zone stood out. He and Jake Wallman form a sharp second pairing. And once again, a familiar refrain could be reached again in this rivalry. Could we even call this a rivalry now?